What's good, y'all? Today we are watching Why Black NBA Players Are Only Clapping White Cheeks by O'Shea Duke Jackson. Holy moly. Not really much to say. I do see it as a trend, with a lot of these celebrities and just NBA stars, NFL stars. I don't know what it is, but they all have a taste for the milk. Now, for me personally, I feel like that's a little scary. You know what I'm saying? Based off the history of black dudes and the milk, I feel like it's a dangerous game to play. You feel me? But let's see what they're talking about. Let's see why black NBA players are locking in with the milk, man.
Meet Leroy Edwards. He's a two-sport athlete from Sacramento, California. He goes to Grant High School. He's a graduating senior. And next year, he will have the pick of the litter. He's a five-star quarterback on the football team, and they just won the state championship. And in the fall, he plays basketball, point guard to be exact, 25 points per game. He's also a five-star recruit in that too. He has his option to play Division I basketball or Division I football and even play in the NFL or the NBA, but he has to make a choice right away. And while making that choice, he has to leave his neighborhood of Del Paso Heights to go on to new pastures and new opportunities. And it is at that point he selects UCLA to further his education. Now in this case, he's going to only play football. He'll be a 3-year starter, throwing for over 10,000 yards in a short career, and he'll go number one.
Honestly, though, if you guys, imagine a world you could be in the NBA or in the NFL, and you can make that decision. You know what I'm saying? Let's say, you're going to be first round pick in either one. Which one would you actually go with? I'm not going to lie. I feel like going with, NBA is probably a better bet. More longevity. I think. I feel like most people play football for a couple years, but then he said quarterback. So, the quarterback, maybe that's a little different. But, yeah, I just want to throw that in there. But this O'Shea, he over here, I don't know what this man talking about, bro. He putting himself in all the picks, because that's O'Shea's face. If y'all don't know who O'Shea look like, that's O'Shea, bro. And he putting himself in all the picks. So I think he's trying to paint a picture for us. So let's lock in and let's pick up what he putting down. Pause, no Diddy.
One in the NFL draft, but there's just going to be a problem.
I have a question. I was watching the draft with my husband last night. I'm not even a big football.
Does that say thick, tight? Thick thighs. X. What shirt you wearing, bro?
Ball fan, but I like to watch this draft because I like to see people's dreams come true. But I'm wondering, do you have to have a white girl with you to get drafted?
That's right. Leroy Edwards don't even date black women no more. All of a sudden, he's with a white chick, and the girl is there at the NFL draft. But wait.
I see the big topic with the, all our ball players. They, pretty much got the white girl. But now, a lot of them have gone to school with these white girls throughout their lives. And, it may be love.
Nah, that's facts. That's facts. I didn't even consider that, because when you really think about it, let's say, middle school, maybe early high school, a lot of the times they end up at whatever school they're going to. And then if they think that they're going to make it into, play Division I basketball or anything of that sort, they end up switching schools to go to a school that would give them better chances of being seen by colleges. So they might end up at a private school. And because of that, now they end up, mingling with the milk. That makes a lot of sense. And then with these colleges, you go into all these big colleges, you're going to see a lot of milk there also. So maybe they just, got used to the milk.
Is it love? Is it all but fashionable? Do we just have a color, issue within our race? What really is it?
Now, just like the brother said, these black men start going to college or high school with these young white women at a very young age. If it's not in college, it's in high school. Let's look at Bronny James. He went to Sierra Canyon High School. He's rich. He's never really had the black experience. His proximity to white women has been close his entire life. So it's normal to date chicks like that.
Sheesh.
But in the case of people like Leroy Edwards, who grew up in the black community and have now converted to dating only non-black women, what?
Bro said converted, and he said only. I'm sure if you ask any of these people that are dating a white girl, I'm sure they don't. You wouldn't ask them like, "Are you done dating black women?" They'll probably say, "No, I'm just with a white girl." You know what I mean? Which ain't crazy. I feel like we be thinking too much about this ish. You feel me? Because you know, a white man dating a black woman, now it's like, woo, you get your bag, shorty, woo. You know what I mean? So it's like, let these dudes date whoever they want to date, bro. At the end of the day, you feel me? They dabbling in the milk. Like I said, I feel like it's a dangerous game. It's a dangerous game. They don't really relate to you. You feel me? So at the end of the day, they probably do things, act certain ways that don't really align with you because of the fact like you never had to go through the struggles that I had to go through, even though you may have went through your own struggles, but it's not the same struggles that I go through. You know what I'm saying? Like you walking through the mall and she like, whatever, and you be looking around like, bro, like why you yelling this shit? Like chill the hell out. You know what I mean? And it's just because you with the white woman. You know what I'm saying? And it's sketchy, bro.
Is the reason why.
Now, on the side of the athletes, there's two reasons, in my opinion, that black men are going towards white women. One, what I have noticed amongst my friends is that they fetish white women a great deal. They find their proximity to white women, it gives them some kind of more of a boost. Like it gives them like a sprinkle of success being in proximity of having a white woman. Like it's a trophy they find.
Yeah, or it's just different, you know, like it's a different vibe. Everybody want to be different, you know what I mean? I can see that.
Find them to be like a trophy.
Like the presenter said, we can infer that possibly Leroy believes that white women are better, or
to handle black on black relationships. And you may say, what do you mean?
Leroy believes that white women are better, or
black men are not equipped to handle black on black relationships. And you may say, what do you mean? Now, understand, listen to this. This is not a bad thing. This is not a good thing. It's just a thing. Black folks have so much trauma that when we are in proximity of other black folks, it's only competition. We have been conditioned to compete with the other black person. It doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman. The only way to survive back in the day was to compete. I'm the better Negro than you. So when we are in relationships, this translates to the exact same thing. Not just man, but also woman.
The presenter makes a very good point here. We can also infer that possibly whenever Leroy dealt in a relationship with black women, he wasn't able to handle it. You know, it was too much infighting in the relationship. It was, you know, he was trying to be the man or she was trying to be the man. And now that he's with this white woman, it feels like she's very feminine. It could feel like she's very submissive, or you would use the word very demure. Now, he's still obviously attracted to black women because he grew up around them. But when it comes to these relationships, he finds it easier that he's dealing with these ladies. And that brings
the math is, you know, when you wrap your head around it, the math is kind of mathing. I feel like another thing is like I feel like this is with all races. Like, let's say, okay, a white dude looking at a white girl, he might look at her and think, oh, she's like a 7. You know what I'm saying? Because they're the same race, which is crazy to think in your head. It's the same. I feel like it's similar maybe to like with Asian people and even black people. And, you know, when we have like, let's say a white woman looking at a black man, even though other black women might think he's like a 7, to her, he might be an 8 because it's so different from her. Right? And I'm pretty sure, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure like we are like naturally as human beings trying to find ways to make our genetics more diverse, right? So maybe that is just something triggering in our brain where like, this is different from me. And because I don't know it, I like it better than somebody that does know it. And that probably happens with literally every race, you know, even white guys and black women, you know, black women and white guys, you know, all these different races. I feel like we find someone of a different race probably more attractive than somebody of our own race because they're different than us, if that makes any sense. I think that could be a contributing factor.
Brings us to the topic of today's conversation. That brings us to Paul Pierce. Now, Paul Pierce is very similar to Mr. Leroy Edwards. I mean, he grew up in Oakland, then moved to Inglewood. He's 6'7", went to University of Kansas, and obviously he probably has.
You see? Look at him. Look at him. This is this ain't a really, you know what I mean? Like, this is just a regular, this is a dude you see anywhere. If the boy wasn't 6'7", bro he'd be kind of screwed. I'm not gonna lie. But, you know, a black woman might be like, damn, this nigga ugly. This is an ugly dude. Like, why he look like that? But a white woman will look at him and think that's just normal. Like, oh, he's just a black dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and accept, you know, certain things that people of the same race would not, you know, accept. You know what I mean? And then whenever this situation, like I mentioned, that I just mentioned happens, it becomes a situation where it's like him, the black girl that he probably wants, and mind you, he's in the NBA. He was probably going to the NBA, so he probably had a lot more options than a regular, everyday person. But the girl that he probably liked, that was like a black girl, probably didn't really find him attractive, at least in the face. You know what I mean? But now he has to go for girls that he feels like are not as attractive to be with him. Now, on the flip side, you know, a girl that he finds attractive from a different race might still like him because she probably gives him one little more step up because he's so different from her. Lock in with me. I might be on to something, bro. I might be cooking. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm cooking. Like, let's be for real. Am I cooking just a little bit?
A few stories about dealing with white women or so. And he was asked a very interesting question the other day.
Why do you feel like men, especially NBA players, get with the white women? Is it because they're easy, quote unquote?
I got some theories.
Why would she say because they're easy? I feel like that's a loaded question. Just ask the question. Why'd you try to load the question up, bro?
But I really want to hear it from him.
I do too. I want to hear it too.
I honestly think that maybe they appreciate maybe more and they apologize more.
Listen, I'm scared. Hold on. No. Hold on.
Yes, I mean, you know.
I had an interview with
they don't mind being held accountable.
I'm so scared of this, y'all.
But I feel like him being an NBA player and being like rich and famous and all this, he probably dealt with so many women in his lifetime. So she's probably about to give him a little bit of pushback, but when you really come down to it, at the end of the day, has she ever dated a woman? You know what I mean? So we about to see. Maybe she doesn't give him any backlash though, or pushback.
Long bit short, and I asked him this similar question, and he said something, and I got dragged for filth. I was on Breakfast Club. I had death threats for so long from black women because they said I laughed when he said that. So let me not laugh. I don't have nothing to do with this.
I mean, that's what
black.
I think.
I'm black.
Know.
He don't know though, because he dates black women. Period. So do not come for him. Period.
So Paul Pierce says this: NBA players get with white women because they apologize and appreciate them more. They don't mind being held accountable. Now, once he said that, a whole bunch of people were upset in the comments. Now, the comments range in different tones about the subject, but I'll start with this guy. I love black women. Why? Their strengths, perseverance, love, humility, grace, elegance, and maturity. This one here, being accountable and being manipulated are two different things. You see Reese Colbert, that's fine, just don't make it a civil rights issue if you catch a case. This individual says, do NBA players get CTE? This other person says, more and more we see proof that being older doesn't mean being wiser. This person, Shea Butter, says, I'm so tired of these combos. Date who you want, leave black women out of it. Of course, these comment sections had balance.
Yeah, he didn't, what's it called though? He didn't bring it up. You know what I mean? It was brought up to him. And I'm sure throughout his everyday life, this man never brings that shit up. But, hey man, at the end of the day, you know, I'm not defending it, but I do feel like people should date whoever they want to date. You feel me? We always pro people should do what they want until, you know, a rich nigga start doing what he want. You know what I mean? But it's like, if he's saying that, and he's probably dealt with more women than I'm going to deal with in my lifetime, and more women that any of those dudes that went in there being a knight in shining armor ever going to deal with in their lifetime, he's on to something in his own right, you know, maybe in his own world. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be the same for everybody, because everybody has different realities at the end of the day. But in his reality, that's what he's seen that it is. You feel me? So, and I'm sure he's dealt with a lot of black women. I'm sure he's dealt with a lot of white women. I'm sure he dealt with a lot of women of different cultures and races, because this nigga rich as shit. You feel me? So he's probably dabbled in everything. And for him to say that, you kind of have to take it, like, of course, take it with a grain of salt, but you kind of have to take it for face value, because of the fact that he probably knows more about dating just all different types of women better than the most of us. So, hey.
To them, those appreciating Paul Pierce, thinking he was right, and then some calling him out on it. But is there a level of unaccountability when it comes to black women? I will say that women have a problem. I believe that most men feel that women have somewhat of an issue with accountability. Remember, the manosphere is just not black men. White men say the same thing about their women. Hispanic men say the same thing. Asian women say the same thing. I think that what a lot of black men are talking about is that if you look at black women's unaccountability in comparisons to the average unaccountability, they would assume that black women's unaccountability would be more. And probably the reason for that is that a lot of these black women, they're not coming from, you know, men in the home. There are no fathers there. In comparisons to some of the white women that they are dating or dealing with, you know, if they're in college, it's more than likely that a lot of these white women are coming from two-parent homes. So they have seen, you know, their mom and dad, you know, come to terms and take accountability in relationships to make the relationship work. So this is something that they have seen. Whereas when it comes to black women who may not have seen that, they would have a harder time understanding it. And this is probably a valid point. However, I think that it is important to understand that most men in general will feel that black women will have a hard time with unaccountability as it is. All right, that's just in general. And also, even if you are dating somebody that comes from a single parent home or not, it doesn't mean that that person will be accountable or unaccountable. All right, sometimes it has no bearing. The reality is that I feel, after studying black men for 10 years, there must be some truth about
where are you studying black men for 10 years, bro? What are you what? I need to see his PhD. You gotta show me that shit, bro.
Black men feeling about that, hey, that white women are more likely to apologize. White women are more able to appreciate them more, and vice versa. They're easy to get along with, right? There has to be some truth to that. And I think that for the black women who are upset about that, I can understand that you don't like being categorized, but I still think that a lot of black women should try to look at some of these things from the black male perspective. I think the fact that black men are talking about this openly means that there is some level of discourse as to why black men want to come to black women or deal with them. But what they're saying is, hey, listen, you know, if these opportunities are not available for us, and if it's just you want me to be accountable and then you can't be accountable, then, you know, we're not going to be able to have a long-term relationship. And I do think that it's also valid. I do honestly feel that when it comes to having black relationships and relationship talks, it's really, if it's about the women and what they need, it's completely okay. If men are discussing about what they need, then it's like, why all you guys got a podcast mic? They need to stop giving everybody a microphone on podcast. I'm getting tired. It's giving dusty. It's giving rusty. It's giving weak. And I mean, I just don't think that that's the right approach to take, especially when it's supposed to be, twofold. Like, I listen to you and you listen to me. And so I think that the group of black women that decided they don't want to understand the opposite side of the spectrum, I think that you're just hurting yourself if you're looking for black men, and if you're looking for black men that are competent and they have a lot to offer, you're probably going to just get passed up if you are not willing to compromise. And that is exactly what Paul Pierce is saying. Black women have a harder time compromising in the relationship versus white women. This is not to say that white women always compromise or that black women will never compromise. Just on average, that black women have a harder time understanding this. Doesn't mean that they don't love you or they don't care or they're not beautiful. It's just a compromise thing. He has never mentioned at least once that black women have a certain look or white women are better looking. And remember, Paul Pierce was married to a black woman, but this is his opinion, which I believe that many black men who have gone this way have seen exactly the same way that he has. And I have been hearing this for over 10 years when I was in the manosphere, and I saw this when I was in Sacramento. Sacramento is one of the most racially diverse cities in the union, okay? And there are a lot of black men with non-black women, and when you would get black men around, they would talk about these exact same things, and then they were demonized for saying these particular points. And I do think there needs to be a certain level of maturity when we're having these conversations in order for the black community to heal and for relationships between black men and black women to become stronger. But guys, what do you think? It's your boy L.Sh. Duke Jackson back at it again with another episode.
Hey, yo, man. This is a pretty good vid. I feel like I said everything I wanted to say about the situation. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about it. Let me know if y'all think he's completely, or Paul Pierce in particular, is completely wrong, or if you agree with him. I got my hands in the air with this one. I don't necessarily feel like that's the case. I feel like each person is different at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And if you're dealing with a certain type of person, then, you may, even if you're from a certain type of place, you might have dealt with a certain amount of people from the same area. And because of that, they've gone through similar, things in their lifetime that push them all to kind of act a certain way, and that's not the case for everywhere. I hate generalizing in general, just people, you know what I mean? Like, if we say, oh, all black women or all black men or all white women or all this, that's never really the case for anything at the end of the day. But, for him to make that connection and for him to, he was married to a black woman, and I'm sure he's dabbled in the milk quite a bit throughout his lifetime. And for him to say that, it should hold some merit. You know what I mean? I feel like at the end of the day, each person is different. And I feel like even with him saying that and him being a black man and asked by a black woman, right? Even though she's biracial, asked by a black woman that, he should be in a safe place to say that. If there's anybody that you should be okay with saying their opinions on, that situation, he should be one of those people. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, if you asked 100 people or 100 black men, I'm sure it wouldn't all be like that. At the end of the day, don't take any of these generalizations that anybody says on any website, online, YouTube, anything. Never take it to heart, because at the end of the day, everyone is different, and that's just is what it is, man. But I thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that other shit. And I love you, shitheads. Have a great day, and peace.